So this presentation is going to be over listening. This is what I chose to talk about. So listening is defined as the active process of making meaning out of another person's spoken message. This was told by Corey Floyd in our Intro to Interpersonal Communications book. The nature of listening, ways of listening, barriers to listening, and how to become a better listener can all be talked about when describing listening. Have you ever had the feeling that someone was hearing you but not listening? Okay, so what is listening? Once again, it is defined as the active process of making meaning out of another person's spoken message. With this being said, since it is an active process, it means you have to make yourself want to listen to others. However, if you don't, that means you're probably not going to hear what they say, you're not going to listen or pay attention, and it's going to make the speaker feel unwanted. That's something that we don't need. And you must also interpret and put your own meaning into their words. So not only do you have to want to listen, but you also have to interpret what they're saying so you can understand better. There are many types of learning and listening styles. So I listed a few from our book. The first one is people-oriented, and this emphasizes concerns for other people's emotions and interests. So in this style, people try to find common interests with one another so they can start conversations and actually be more into them. So action-oriented emphasizes organization and precision. They like to be precise and know exactly what the conversation is about beforehand. Content-oriented style is about intellectual challenges. So people who use this style like to be very, very thorough and detailed. They like to know who, when, what, and where about every scenario, or they'll probably tap out and not listen to the rest of the conversation. Time-oriented style is about efficiency. So people who use this like to be short and to the point. And if it's not short and it takes longer than what they think it should be, they probably will tap out and not listen also. So each person is different though. Each person has a different listening style, just like everybody has different styles to everything, which is why these are made. Stages of effective listening. Hearing is the first stage, and this is where the learning process begins. This is the first step, and hearing is not listening like we have previously mentioned. A lot of people tend to think that hearing is, but it's not the same thing. Understanding is the next step in becoming an effective listener. Once you've heard someone speak, you must then take it a step further to understand what the point is that they're actually trying to get across. If you don't understand it in the beginning, what's the point of even listening to the rest? You're not going to understand. Remembering is the next step. Remembering what you hear in a conversation is key and important so they don't have to repeat themselves when talking to you. This makes them feel like you are effectively listening to the speaker. Interpreting comes next. After you have heard, understood, and remembered something that someone said to you in a conversation, it is now time to interpret. This process may include showing signals to the speaker such as or nodding your head while they're speaking so they know that you are understanding and interpreting and getting all the knowledge that they're trying to get to you. Evaluating is the next step. At this moment in time, you need to judge what the person is saying and figure out if they're telling the truth, and if you believe that it is the truth. After that, you're also separating facts from opinions in what they're saying. And responding is the very last stage to effective listening. After you have heard and understood everything, by responding, it sends a message to the speaker that you are listening and paying attention. Barriers are the next thing we will be discussing. So there are a lot of barriers when it comes to listening. A lot of things can get in the way of someone's communication or when they're speaking, and I've listed some of those. So one main barrier is noise, and it is probably the biggest barrier of them all. Noise refers to anything that distracts you from listening to what you wish to listen to. And during this, you need to try and focus on who's speaking and block out and eliminate all noises if possible. Information overload is another barrier. When someone is speaking about something serious, it is common that they overload you with details and facts that you might not have already known. So therefore, if you are feeling overloaded during a conversation, it is okay to ask them to pause, maybe rewind and like say what they originally said maybe a different way to try to help you understand. And that's okay, because it shows that you are actually listening and trying to pay attention. A third common barrier is called glazing over. Our minds tend to think faster than what most people talk. So glazing over is defined as dividing our attention between listening and daydreaming. And in this moment in time, our minds can wander off if we're not fully into a conversation. And we can start thinking and daydreaming, and that's not good. And if we do that, we can possibly miss important details of a discussion and maybe not listen as effectively as what we usually would. And it would make you appear to the speaker that you're not listening. Why I chose this topic. So words and expressions are some of the most and moving ways to show feelings. Feelings could be compassion, love, happiness, sadness, or even empathy. And expressing these feelings through discussion and listening can be powerful enough to get a person through a tough time. But if we don't have listeners, how are people supposed to discuss their feelings and what they truly feel? Other people's findings. So Harvard Business Review says that people think listening is able to recite words word for word that somebody's saying, or being able to just nod in a conversation, and that's not at all what it is. Mind Tool states that we listen to obtain, understand, learn, and enjoy information, and listening is one of the most important skills that you can have.